Hello and welcome. I'm Lenny Tvedten, and each month I'm going to visit with some Martin County veterans for a series called Their Sacrifices, Our Freedom. Today I have with me Paul Gladfelter and Bob Huemoeller. First of all, before we get into your experiences in the military, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And Bob, we'll start with you.
My name is Bob Huemoeller. I was born and raised in Northrop. Graduated from Fairmont High School in 1957. Graduated a degree in accounting from Gustavus in 1961. In the fall of 61, I went down to Pensacola, Florida to the Aviation Officers Commission area. Went through their OCS, was commissioned an ensign in the United States Naval Reserve, and went into flight training. I was not very successful in flight training, so I left there and was assigned to the USS Coral Sea, an aircraft carrier.
Bob?
Yes.
When you got out of the military, what did you do? What was your profession?
Well, when I got out of the military, I ended up in Arizona, and I attended Arizona State University, and I got a master's degree in business administration. And I've been practicing as an accountant ever since that time until I retired about 4 years ago.
Okay.
A lot of tax work, but that got so doggone complicated. I decided to hang up my shingle and my pencil and put the pencil sharpener away and hung up my green eye shade and said, that's it.
Yeah. Okay, Paul, what about you? What can you tell us about yourself?
Well, I was born in York, Pennsylvania. I'm right now 94 years old. I was born on May 11th, 1927. I had some great parents. I guess I was 14 years old when Pearl Harbor happened. And I got a little bit upset with what was going on because I didn't think that was the way that the world should go. So I joined the Civil Air Patrol because I always wanted to be a pilot. When I was a kid, I built airplanes. And I remember my two favorite airplanes, Bob, you'll relate to this, was a P-38. Remember that, baby? And
yes,
then
I do.
The Navy was my inverted gull wing F4U. Inverted gull wing plane.
Yep.
So I guess my wanting to be a pilot guided me through many years of ups and downs. I joined when I was 16 as I joined the Army Air Corps Reserve Fund to be a pilot.
When you were 16?
When I was 15. When I was 15.
15.
Yeah.
Wow.
You needed your parents' permission for that?
Well, yes, I did. Because I wanted to be a pilot so badly. I mean, I could just taste it. So in 43, I got a notice from the Army Air Corps. They weren't going to put any pilots through that had not graduated from high school. So as a result of that, they gave me a discharge. So then I went out and I thought, I'm going to try the naval one. So I joined up to the Naval Air Corps to become a pilot. In fact, Robert, I was assigned to go to Pensacola, Florida in Naval Aviation School. Well, I never got there because come late 44, they decided no more pilots. They weren't putting them through pilot school. And so they gave me a discharge. I had a choice of going out and doing any service that I wanted to get into or to go in the Navy. So I wound up in the Navy in early 1945.
How did you happen to pick the Navy?
Pardon?
What prompted you to pick the Navy?
Well, I had to choose, and I love the water, and I love the Navy.
You wanted to be a pilot.
But, well, that was over. I mean, they no pilot school because they weren't taking them anymore. So I guess I just had to join something, and so why not join the Navy? Because I love the sea. So I wound up joining the Navy, and I spent 14 months in the Atlantic Ocean on an auxiliary oiler up and down the East Coast. Got a ship in Norfolk, Virginia, and went out to sea and spent 14 months at sea. And what an auxiliary oiler does, I'll tell you what it is. we would fuel aircraft carriers, battleships, cruisers, and anybody, but we did it at sea because the ships could not come into port because it took too long for them to get supplies. So we was a supply ship that went into port, got aviation gasoline and fuel oil, and went out to sea, and we would fuel them at sea. So that's what I spent 14 months doing.
So what would you say, as far as the military, what influence did it have in your life following your service in the military?
Well, I got out of the service, the Navy, in '46, and I went to college. And that's what I wanted to do because we had the GI Bill. So I went to college, and at college I met my wife.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Bob, how about you? You were in the military, you were in the Navy.
Yes.
And I know in reading your story, you had more than one memorable experience, I think, at sea. So maybe you can share a couple of those exciting times.
Yeah.
About the middle of 1962, I was transferred from Pensacola to the Naval Air Station at Alameda, California, on board the USS Coral Sea. We went into dry dock in San Francisco at Hunters Point for a complete, a pretty extensive dry dock repair. And we then went out to San Diego for some underway training. And in late May of '63 or thereabouts, we headed for the Pacific. We stopped at Hawaii to unload supplies, and then headed for Sydney, Australia, for the national celebration down in Australia of the Battle of the Coral Sea, which took place in June of '43, I believe it was, where the Japanese were attempting to mount a campaign against the Australian nation. And there was a tremendous naval battle called the Battle of the Coral Sea, hence the name of the ship.
Right.
Okay?
All right.
We went down to Australia, but on the way down there, we crossed the equator at the international date line. Now,
They had a little ceremony for you at that point?
oh yeah, it wasn't little, it was big. Anyway,
Did you walk the plank?
no, we never walked the plank.
Never
But
walked the plank.
I'll
Okay.
take you through. The tradition in the Navy is that when a ship crosses the equator, any Navy ship personnel who have not crossed the equator before are known as polywogs. And you have to go through a ceremony once you get to the equator. Now, we crossed at the international date line, which gives me the entitlement of a golden shellback. A shellback is an individual who has crossed the equator.
Okay.
We crossed at the date line, so we're golden shellbacks. Now,
Double duty.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
the ceremony is you have to meet the King Neptune, I believe it was called, who was the most senior enlisted man on board the ship, most senior in terms of when he crossed the equator for the first time.
Okay.
And he is King Neptune. And the first step was you had to kiss the royal baby. And what they do, I don't know how in the dickens they find them, but they find the fattest petty officer or first class officer in the first class enlisted on the ship, strip him down to shorts, put him in a big diaper, and fill his belly button with grease. And you have to kiss the royal baby's belly button. And of course, when you get to do that, he grabs the back of your head and smashes your nose into his belly button, so you come up with a whole mouthful of grease. Oh, it's just awful. That's one stop. The next stop,
There's more than one thing that happens
oh
there?
yeah, there's 5 or 6 things you have to do. Now, I avoided the Royal Undertaker, but the
Well,
exact...
you're still alive, so.
Oh yeah, I'm still alive. We just got started. The Royal Undertaker is a station in this perimeter where there's a box, a wooden box that's filled with week-old garbage and who knows whatever else, and you have to lay in that thing for a little while. Luckily, I missed that one, but our exec on board, the second in command, had never crossed the equator. So that poor guy, he had to lay in that filth for about a half hour. And of course, it's very warm. That garbage is getting more rotten all the time. And
So this is really kind of a lengthy thing. You go
oh
through
yeah,
several.
it takes nearly the whole day.
Okay.
Then there's the Royal Tunnel.
But if you've gone through that ceremony,
Then you're a shellback. You don't do it
you don't have to
again.
do it again. This is just for the people that are
Or
the
pollywogs, never,
ones who have
never
never
crossed
done
before.
that.
Yes.
Okay. As far as your time in the military,
Yes.
did that influence you in any way after you got out?
Yes, in a number of ways. But something that I learned in the service is it's kind of unbelievable, but a captain of a U.S. Navy ship at sea is almost God Almighty.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. His ruling within the Navy regs and all that is absolute. And he is almost God Almighty.
You never question his
No,
authority.
no, you don't question his authority. You may ask him why or something like that, but you don't buck up against him.
You're right.
No.
Oh, yeah.
That's one thing I learned, and it carried on, is in my working career, I didn't very often argue with the boss.
And that's a reflection of your time in the military.
I think
and
so. That
relating to
plus
the
my
captain.
dad as well. My dad and my mother when I was still home. That's one thing I learned. Another thing I learned and saw was the abject poverty in Hong Kong. When you get to the mainland, which is just a short hop,
Sure.
there's a large hill up the side, and that hill was absolutely packed with tar paper shacks. I can't imagine how those people live.
It's something
Thank-
you can't get out of your mind after
No,
you've seen it.
I can still see those shacks made out of cardboard and whatever scraps they could find, lumber and that.
It's had an influence on you
Yep.
after that.
Another thing that I remember very vividly is the port of Sydney, Australia, is unquestionably the prettiest port I've ever been in. It's built on a river. The river, the name I don't remember the name, but it flows through near and maybe even through part of Sydney itself.
Sure.
The lawns and these people's homes. The grass is planted and mowed and trimmed right down the water's edge.
It's very well kept.
Oh, it's beautiful.
How about the people interacting with
Oh,
people?
wonderful. Really wonderful. What was really nice, we didn't have a language barrier.
Sure.
When we left Australia, the Australian Air Force guys, they were kind of cagey. Sometime during the night, they got on board the ship, the Coral Sea, and they painted a red kangaroo on the belly of every one of our airplanes. And that was the red kangaroo was a sign of the Australian Air Force.
Did you have somebody on guard duty?
Well, they had them on guard duty, but the Aussies, they came and went pretty much. We weren't worried about it because they were in uniform.
Sure. Yeah.
But every blasted plane we had on board the ship had a red kangaroo painted on the other side of it.
Interesting. Well, thank you both for your service, and thank you for being in my book. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. It was fun writing it.
Yeah,
It really
great.
was. Brought back a lot of memories.
Good. Good.
And I read some of the other chapters in the book. Some of these guys had some real harrowing experiences.
experience.
I never set foot in Australia or in Vietnam, but we were out there.
Sure, sure.
Yep.
Well, I'd like to also thank our sponsors, the family of Mike Gary, Sweet Financial Partners, Erpelding Voigt CPAs, and Lisi Prentice, American Legion Post 36 in Fairmont. Thank you, viewers, as well, and we hope to see you at the Martin County Historical Society's Pioneer Museum.